The major problem with the color-coded system is it didn't communicate information. Well, what was the threat? What were you supposed to do? Where were you supposed to go to get additional information? And it had no natural way to be reduced if a threat dissipated or was removed. And as you know, once you raise a threat, it's very difficult to reduce it, which is why having a system that sunsets is a major improvement. What this is designed to do is to say, look, when we have specific credible information as evaluated by the intel community of an elevated or an imminent threat, then an NTAS alert will go out, and it will come out from me. It will come out from the secretary. And the only difference between elevated or enhanced is elevated means it's above the normal baseline that we have. Imminent means it's something that is very time sensitive, and we are trying to get people to react in a very time sensitive manner.
State media is reporting that a NATO airstrike has killed several people in the south of the capital, Tripoli. 4 people were reportedly killed in the attack in Bir al-Ghanam. NATO is involved in the imposing of a UN-sanctioned no-fly zone over Libya. This comes as the Western military alliance has warned civilians to avoid forces loyal to Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi. NATO says this can help ensure more success in its airstrikes. Well, to discuss the situation on the ground a bit further, we're being joined by author and historian Dr. Webster Griffin Tarpley from Maryland on the line. Many thanks for joining us here, Dr. Tarpley, on Press TV. Now, first of all, I'd like to get your reaction to NATO saying that civilians should avoid forces loyal to Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi in order not to get killed. Is that a viable solution to the problem on the ground?
I think it's an example of the Orwellian absurd rhetoric coming from the NATO headquarters. Obviously, the NATO air raids are killing large numbers of Libyan civilians. They've killed them on both sides now. They've killed rebels, they've killed Gaddafi loyalists, and also they're also intervening in a civil war, right? The destruction of Gaddafi's tanks and other forces has now prolonged a civil war. If it hadn't been for the NATO intervention about a month ago, this entire thing would be over. The civil war would have come to a halt. Right now we've got a situation where the question of the safety of Libyan civilians is essentially the new weapons of mass destruction issue. And by that I mean in 2003, to justify the attack on Iraq, the Bush-Cheney administration was yapping all the time about WMD in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, and so forth. Now the litany we're hearing is Libyan civilians, and there simply is no proof that any such massacres are going on. Gaddafi has captured any number of cities. He's captured Ras Lanuf, Brega, Zawiya. There's no evidence of any massacre in any such cities. What we do have is evidence of massacres by the rebels, massacres of black Africans, be they from Chad or Mali or Sudan or Somalia, who have been in Libya working as foreign workers in the civilian economy. They have been massacred in large numbers by these rebels in the Benghazi-Tobruk-Darna corridor.
Well, Dr. Tarpley, in its campaign to impose the so-called no-fly zone over Libya, we've seen the UN mandate being stretched. As far as we can tell right now, Italy said it will send 20 military advisors into Libya. France has already sent military advisors, and Britain has the same plans. Is this another extrapolation of the same plan these countries have with regards to Libya?
Well, the plan, of course, is the South Mistral plan, which has been, the British and the French were working on it already last autumn. There's very good evidence that a boatload of U.S., British, and French combat advisors arrived in Libya sometime around the 23rd or 24th of February. So for about 2 months, we have had CIA, SAS, Special Forces people from the imperialist powers on the ground. I think that the difference now is that the British, French, and Italian advisors are going to be taking command of these so-called rebel forces. In other words, they're going to become colonial regiments with foreign officers telling them what to do. The rebels are openly calling in NATO airstrikes on their own country, and now we have from the rebel council there in Benghazi a call for a foreign invasion. They're literally demanding the occupation of their country by foreign troops in a military operation, a war that is going to kill even more people than we're seeing right now. I can tell you here from Washington, the American people are sick of war, sick and tired of imperialist adventures. The consensus is growing here to get out of this and let the Suez coalition, the British and the French of 1956 vintage, let them fend for themselves.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Thursday, April 21st, 2011, and I'm Darko. This is part 3, everyone. We made it successfully to part 3. So, you can check out my poll here. Do you think gasoline prices will exceed the $5 mark this year? 77% are saying yes, 22% saying maybe, and 11% saying not sure. My website is www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. All right, let's move on. Syrian president signs law to end emergency rule. You think they'll do that in the United States? I don't think so. That's right, we are still in a state of emergency ever since 9/11, so we are technically in a state of martial law. So it says here, Syria ministry, unrest is armed insurrection. Syria's interior ministry says the unrest in the country now amounts to a, quote, armed insurrection, and says the activities of the groups causing the unrest will not be tolerated. U.S. sends drones to Libya. Troops pound Misrata. Says U.S. on Thursday launched armed drones against Gaddafi's troops who pounded the rebel-held Libya city of Misrata, despite Western threats to step up military action against them. Then moving on, NATO says it can't stop shelling of Libyan city. Oh man, they just gotta do it. There's no other choice. We gotta bomb people. France vows to step up airstrikes in Libya. So there you go. Then this from Rents, Rothschild's globalist killers pour depleted uranium on Libyans in nuclear war. And then you're hearing about, is Gaddafi dropping cluster bombs? Well, I showed a video about cluster bombs being dropped in a city. I don't know if that's Gaddafi or the U.S. forces. I would imagine that it's U.S. forces, NATO forces, but I have no proof of that. But I do know that there's a disinfo campaign going on constantly, and so, yeah, the depleted uranium is being dropped on the Libyans. So we'll see about the cluster bombs, but I don't believe that it's Gaddafi dropping cluster bombs on his own people yet. So I don't think he's that desperate yet. Says UK's Cameron, no plans for ground forces in Libya. So no plans for ground forces in Libya. US-led ground invasion of Libya is likely, and that's the interview that we just saw on Press TV with Webster Tarpley. Italy to send 10 military instructors to help Libyan rebels. So they're going to help them in their humanitarian mission to kill people. Britain sending military team to Libya. So Britain's going to expand their presence in Libya with military advisors. And the European Union said it's prepared to send troops for humanitarian assistance. So the communist bloc of Europe is going to send their comrades, their commissars as well. UK military deployed to Libya as EU mulls sending 1,000 humanitarian troops. And what does this sound like? It says Italy and France join UK in sending advisors to Libya. And then this is what it sounds like, right? Warning of new Vietnam and Libya as British military advisors go in. And if you know your history, well, actually, if you don't know your history, I'll just tell you right here. You can go up and look it up yourself. Prior to the Vietnam War, we had the Gulf of Tonkin, which was basically a big false flag. Why? Because the American people did not support a war in South Asia. They were still reeling from the World War, but no, they had to come into the military-industrial complex and the powers that be try to shove a Korean War in their faces, and that backfired on them. And then came Vietnam, and for them it was a success. But prior to that, yes, they had a false flag terrorist attack, the Gulf of Tonkin. Basically allowing our jets, boats, and that to be attacked. But also, there was thousands, if not 500,000 advisors in Vietnam, and Kennedy did not want to go there, and of course Kennedy died, and bam, we went to Vietnam. So moving on here, Libya rebels to get $25 million of U.S. military equipment under Pentagon proposal, and then U.S. to give Libyan rebels non-lethal aid. Oh, non-lethal aid. Well, I could have sworn I've seen them with some high-powered machine guns, and I don't think they're coming from under the ground growing off trees, right? No, they're coming from the west. Libyan rebels story shows links to Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and NATO, so we already know that, right? That Al-Qaeda is working with the U.S. That's who the Al-Qaeda is. It's run by intelligence networks. Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi has accused a senior Al-Qaeda figure coordinating uprising from a mobile command ship, which I wouldn't be too surprised if that was true. British MPs warn of Libya mission creep. Then we have NATO prolonging war in Libya, and that's what we just covered with Tarpley. Bahrain police chase and arrest protesters. Bahraini security forces have reportedly been sighted hunting down demonstrators in a village in the northwest part of the country. Then moving on, Egypt court remove Mubarak name from public places. A court in Egypt has ruled that the names of the ousted president Mubarak and his wife Suzanne be removed from all public places. Now this is just typical rhetoric and policy, after Stalin was gone, you gotta tear down the statues, and Saddam, we gotta tear down the statues. Well, these were all puppets of the globalist guys. I'm sure most of you know that. These are all puppets that are backed by the globalists. They're done with them, so they remove their statues, right, to appease the people. But, instead of actually focusing on real issues in that country, like elections, right, to actually get an election going, because that's the whole damn point of all the protests, was to get them out of there and then get someone else in there. Of course, it's going to be El Barati, probably, another puppet, but still, no, they're focused on just, we got to worry about taking his name down. No, worry about the elections. Militants blow up school in Pakistan. Why? Because that's the center for brainwashing, and that's why they do that. That's basically what it is. That's where most of the re-education and indoctrination goes on. It says here, CIA agents still operating in Pakistan. And despite Pakistan's call for drastic cuts in the number of CIA agents on its soil, a large number of such agents are still operating in the Asian country. A Pakistani lawyer says Pakistani army chief slams U.S. drone strikes. And it says here, U.S. strikes on Pakistan to continue. So it says here, NATO tanker torched in northwest Pakistan. Like I always say, they don't pay the Taliban off. The U.S. does. That's why they don't get struck. Iran urges Pakistan action on Jundullah, and the Jundullah is basically what? It's a Western-backed terrorist cell, Sunni, and that's why Iran's telling them. They're telling the West to get out of their country. U.S.-led airstrike kills Afghan woman and kid. Then U.S. Supreme Court rejects Gitmo appeal, and France discrimination favors Jews. And then French riot police threaten to strike over alcohol ban. France's riot police have complained about being treated like children following a new ban on drinking alcohol while on duty. Then it says Hungary to approve new constitution on Monday, and people that are against it claim that it's an attempt to entrench power for the government while limiting civil liberties. Well, yeah, says here, Iran dog ownership to be outlawed under lawmakers' plan. Iran to stage military drill, but regional observers says report that Mexican police chief sacked over graves. Roger Ailes caught spying on reporters at a small-town newspaper. Creepy. Missouri sheriff faces meth charges in state ravaged by drugs. Ex-Chicago cop admits to lying in report. Then U.S. firm sued for abusing Thai workers, talking about filed the largest human trafficking lawsuit against a California-based firm. Please join us in the final part. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.